Hello, welcome to new video and a new brew. This time we are in Jeskai and we are playing Monastery Mentor deck. Well, it's not just a Mentor deck. There are also 4 Ledger Shredders, which are like very brutal in this deck. I haven't yet played a deck where Ledger Shredder is better than in this one. It's even better than in Murktide. It's probably similar to the Grixis Shredder deck, Shredder Shadow, but it's definitely really good here. Just having also considers that you don't have an uh, Grixis makes it even better. Also, Serum Visions. We play all these spells because of the mentor and also iterations, so we get a constant flow of cards, and channelers just help. Channelers and Shredder help me to smooth my draws, and the draws are pretty good. You can always find the card you need, and it's incredibly good at digging. And when you put Mentor on the field, you can make a lot of tokens very fast. So I'm pretty impressed by this deck. Played the 2 leagues today. Total score was 9-1. Um, so pretty impressed by this deck. Also, we have, of course, 4 Ragavans here. So it's a classic DRC Ragavan deck, but Shredder and Monastery Mentor as additional threats, and they both shine greatly in this deck, and I'm really satisfied with this build. And there has been I tried Jeskai Mentor deck before. It's nothing new. I tried it several times, but never had good score with it, and never had a nice build like this one. And I'm really happy with this build. It's kind of, I don't want to remove anything. The only flex spot is this Force of Negation that could possibly be a Spell Pierce, but I'm still testing and uh, content with the Force of Negation for this far. So um, yeah, so we'll just watch the league, the 5 league I played uh, before today, and I'll just comment on sideboard before that. So there's some graveyard hate, some lens hate, 1 engineered explosives, some artifact enchantment hate, some counter spells like Flusterstone, Spell Pierce, also 1 Dovin Veto instead of second Flusterstorm. Especially for Living End matchup. Second copy of the Fairy Time Reveler on sideboard, also 1 Jace on sideboard for grindy control matchups, and 2 Disputes, of course, to fight other blue decks and to protect our spells. So that's it. Just 18 lands, but it's more than enough. Deck is very capable of digging, and you find lands pretty consistently here, and it hasn't been a problem for me so far. So okay, let's just watch the leak. Okay, so first game, Mulligan to 6, playing first, classic start, DRC bubble, kept force on top, and just bubbled my opponent to realize that they're playing the Blood Sun control. Um, I let them kill my DRC because I had consider and iteration in hand, and I find another DRC, But unfortunately, my opponent played Chalice of the Void, and I didn't have really any choice but to ditch iteration, which I really didn't want to do, but it was the only possibility here. So I was in kind of bad situation. Just went bolt to head, try to find delirium, and also just just to find something and scry the top of my library. I didn't find anything special, just a shredder, which put me really far behind in this match. So no cards in hand. No card in hand, only possibility was drawing expressive iteration. So that was it. Didn't have any chance after this play. My opponent played Teferi. I did have a mentor, but it wasn't much help at this point. Okay, so that was it. We'll immediately go to game 2. Game 2, playing first, keeping 7 good cards, 2 iterations, 2 counterspell, DRC, everything I need. So I drew into Ragavan and immediately started dashing. They play Prismatic, I think they play Prismatic Ending, yeah they do. And I didn't want to cast my Ragavan, I just rather dashed it so I can avoid the Prismatic Ending. Hold the 2 counterspells into hand, and there was no point in rushing with iteration. Um, I was in a pretty good situation, so I wanted to counter this Blood Sun definitely. Again, just dashing my Ragavan. Should have played the Mountain first, but it wasn't that it wasn't so important. My opponent played the Chalice. I definitely had to counter this. They killed the Channeler, but it was fine. No big loss here. So I just continued to dash my Ragavan, and the 2 iterations in hand, I was in a pretty good position. And my opponent on 9 life already, and I find some very good stuff with first iteration. Mentor in hand, Channeler on field, Ragavan in hand, all very good cards in this matchup. Okay, so I decided that this was the good time to go iteration. Put in another iteration in hand, exile Shredder, just again attack with my Ragavan, and put them on 7 life, and just play my Ledger Shredder. So I have close to lethal next turn. Possibly lethal if I connive on Shredder. They decided to counter my iteration, which was fine by me. I just decided that I want to let them resolve this spell, hold my counter spell, and wait next turn to kill them. There wasn't my opponent didn't draw anything, so they conceded. It was time for game 3. Game 3 playing second, a bit trickier, but I think this is not a bad matchup, a pretty decent matchup. I just have to draw. I have to play a classic game with a lot of good stuff, iterations, and answers to their things, not let Big Teferi live. and stuff like that. So always have answer for Big Teferi and the Shells of the Void. It's crucial. Okay, so I went for iteration here. Definitely find the land, find counter spell. Just play my Ragavan. Opponent didn't have much. They put Rest in Peace on the field, but Rest in Peace really doesn't make too much problems for me. It is still in a very good position. I just decided to hold my counterspell, hold Bubble in hand, wait for Mentor and Channeler to play it. I decided to play both of my creatures just to create token. Token is also, well, token also can be big and it's a threat, so I wanted to make the best out of that. So here just played my second channeler, and then it was time definitely to kill the Rest in Peace. Still holding my bubble, so after I destroy the rip, I can crack my bubble and get the delirium much easier. And I immediately got it with Consider in hand and made another token with Sispir and attacked for a lot, so put them on 10 life, which means I have lethal next turn, and that was it. They didn't find any good answers. It was first win. Okay, so game 2 again, playing first. It's had a decent hand. I immediately suspect I'm playing against Living Ant when my opponent plays Mysterious Forests and Past, so Shudder is very good against Living Ant. Obviously, when they cast Cascade, you get to connive and put a creature into your graveyard. So it can be pretty good. There was no point in playing my creatures here because they were going to definitely go for a Living End, and they did. So I was able to discard my Mentor and counter their Living End, and it's a pretty decent situation just having a Mentor here. And they did it again on their turn, so I was able to discard the second Mentor, and I even drew into third Mentor, and they already cast 2 Living Ends, so yeah, it's pretty good for me, definitely. I just put all 3 mentors on the field, and they have only 1 living end left in the deck, and just cast a Prismatic Ending to get 3 tokens to be able to block, and try to kill my opponent and swing back. Iteration can really do a lot of damage here, so just block the Dragawan, played Iteration, pump my creatures, find the bolt, bolt the agent, and that was enough. That was lethal, more than lethal. Really a lot of damage. Okay, so game 2. Game 2 I have pretty good sideboard for this matchup. I have the one Flusterstorm, the Spell Pierce, the 2 Spell Bombs. Also, Ragavan helps casting Teferi turn 2 before they can Living End. And so I had all the good stuff in hand, Force, Flusterstorm, Teferi. I went for Teferi immediately. I didn't have the Force, and I just wanted to draw another card with Teferi immediately. Uh, it's it's it was over at this point. There's absolutely no chance of them winning this match after casting Teferi with Force and Flusterstorm in hand. And also Ragavan on the field. Okay, so I was just looking for another counter spell. So I continue attacking with my Ragavan plus my Teferi, just hold counter spells and kill my opponent as quickly as possible. I put everything, dished everything into graveyard, just looking for this counter spell, some more insurance, and at this point I can even sack my Teferi. I really don't need it. I have everything I need to win right here. Also, exiled Grief and Exile Grief on top of the library, played it, removed the Sky Turtle from the hand so they can bounce their own Grief. And I had lethal next attack and protected by 4 counterspells. They had Force of Negation in hand, but it was too little. And it was also their final living end, so that was it. That was win number 2, and I had luck because my opponent game 3 just conceded and left the game, so it was a free win. No point in playing that out. My opponent, we just played one game, and my opponent conceded. It was Yagmat. I played against Yagmat before. Previously, won the match. It felt like even matchup. Okay, so game number 4, playing first, put Ragavan on the field, kept a 1-lander, but with Mishra Bubble. I didn't have removal for Ragavan, just discarded my Ledger Shredder. I drew into another land and was able to start attacking with the Ragavan here. Um, so I exiled hard evidence, which means it was the transmogrified deck in the Mutable Creativity. So I cast Mentor turn 2 because they didn't have removal for Ragavan turn 1, which meant that Mentor is probably going to be a very good play here. They find a shock here, try to cast Prismari, but I had a counter spell, make another token, I have a little swing back, and that was it. Yeah, I just cast to consider, and my opponent conceded. So time for game 2. Game 2 can be a bit trickier. I had to mulligan to 6. I didn't have any creatures, have like a clunky hand with clunky cards, situational cards. So Pet Exile, one off in a deck, and not really good against this deck because if you cast it, that means they resolve the Archon, and you're not in a good situation. But I left one post board just in case if they succeed to cast it. So I was able to connect with Dragalan again a few times. Didn't exile the Prismari command, didn't have good cards in hand, so decided to cast it. Draw 2 discard to make treasure token. but didn't find anything really good. My opponent was stuck on lands a bit, but with 5 cards in hand and my hand being pretty bad, meant that they are in a decent position here. I played my Shredder, but I wasn't able to connive here, so didn't get any value. I played Dispute to connive, try to find something, and they were really close to just finding Archon, and that's why I kept the Pet to Exile in case they cast it, so I can kill it and then start over. Also to try to kill their Dwarven Mind token if possible, but unfortunately they had Persist, and and it was very good for them. I drew into Iteration after that, and into second iteration, which was pretty good. Also find third iteration, but still didn't have anything special in hand. Just one bolt to try maybe kill the Dwarven Mind token. If they try, which I did do, I did kill the token. I was left with the Flusterstorm in hand, but just the situation went increasingly bad for me at this point because every Flusterstorm obviously very bad when they have a 7-8 mana, and also spell pierces and other draws I can have. So my opponent was able to hardcast Archon at this point, and I conceded after that. And it was time for game 3. Game 3, much better playing first. Uh, Also having a very nice hand, 2 counter spells, Channeler Bubble, turn 1. So pretty good hand against them. You really want to have those counter spells ready for creativity. They killed the Channeler turn 1, but I was able to find Dragawan, and I decided to just dash it, and no point in holding counterspell here that much. So I just next turn I just played my Ragavan, and I was able to start attacking with it. Hold 2 of my counterspells, also hold Heat for Dwarven Mind token. So I had really everything I need here. Um, I was able to clear the way for Ragavan to continue attacking, and just in no hurry, casting consider end of turn, and then iteration on my turn. Finally, when I have enough mana to hold both of my counter spells, exiled 3 good cards, but I decided to exile Heat, put another removal into hand. In case they want to block Ragavan, I just heat it and again hold both counter spells for next turn. Okay, so they're on 7 life at this point. Um, I cast a Mentor before combat. If they try to do some combat tricks, then I get a token. I countered the removal, attacked with Ragavan again, played exiled Tainted Intelligence from their hand to get another token, so I have a lethal next turn if they don't do anything. And that was it. My opponent didn't have much. That was win number 4, and time for match number 5. Match number 5 was against uh, as per food, the Sparring Spike deck. Pretty good deck, but I was able to get a pretty clear 2 wins against it. And they had the Shredder, so I wanted to kill Shredder before casting another spell. They cast another Emery, but I had the ending, had the bubble. It was best to just go ending bubble here, discard land, find something good, and hold the iteration for next turn. And my opponent was just on two cards in hand, and I decided to look at my own top, find channel there, so I didn't want to fetch before that, and just cast channel iteration to try to find removal. I only wanted removals at this point, no counter spells, so I just was ditching anything that is not a removal. I just wanted to find a removal for this manufacturer and Emery they had, so I had a decent amount of damage in the air, so I just had another mentor in hand, so I just played my Shredder. I played Serum Visions, trying to find removal. I did find it, but couldn't cast it this turn, so I just put a counter spell into hand for the next turn and had the Prismatic Ending on top. Also, when they cast the second spell, I decided to ditch my iteration because I had removal and counter spell in hand. That was all I needed, and that was it. I had lethal next turn. My opponent conceded. Game 2, so kept a pretty decent hand. My opponent mulliganed to 5 card, but my hand was very good, and it's pretty impossible for me to lose with this hand against mulligan to 5. So I just looked at my top, shuffled the top, fetched into Vance to play Consider end of turn. A pretty good hand, a lot of digging here, 2 hits, Consider, 2 iterations, so everything I need really, just holding a hit, Consider, look at the top, their upkeep, it was Daredevil, and they played another cookbook, and I saw the Daredevil in hand, so I definitely wanted to counter this. On my draw, drew into Channeler Soul Guide, so I tried to find my land iteration, did find it. I played Lantern because they had Daredevil, they made a token response, but that was all the tokens they will do for some time. They played the Time Sieve, but didn't have much, just 2 cards in hand. One of them was Daredevil. I drew into Werther. I first played Consider to find another land. Then I definitely I was in danger of them making some foods and then gaining extra turn. I didn't want to let them do that, so I decided to go immediately to kill the Time Sieve. And I was able to leave the Prismatic Ending on top to kill the cookbook next turn. It was a pretty easy win for me. I had everything, endings, iterations, bolts, heat, everything I need. Just find another iteration, play another channeler, prismatic ending the cookbook, hold the lantern in the field if they have something, but at this point there's very low chance of them having something. So just play another iteration, find another consider, find land, find it was the last land, just clear the way. They had the food token, I had a bolt, so I decided it's best to attack first, put them on 2 life, then ending the food token and the bolt in response. It's they can't do anything about that. Had to second response, and then I've just bolt them, and that was it. That were all the games. So a pretty quick league. Very a lot of easy games. Had some luck, definitely. But deck felt really powerful this league. Also, league I played before. So I'm pretty happy with the list, as I said, and I think this deck has can do some real competition in current modern. It has all the tools it needs to fight all the decks in the meta, and it's pretty consistent and can dig just incredibly well, and can Monastery Mentor can raise everything, even the Murktide. So I think deck is pretty good. So and pretty happy with sideboard plan also. Um, I think it has everything you need for all the best decks against all the best decks in format. Didn't play played a lot of matchups. Didn't play yet against 4-color Omnat, but I think I should be pretty decent against Omnat because of the amount of card draw, card filtering. I think it will be a pretty fun matchup and and pretty even. Okay, so that's it. Deck is, I think this deck is really powerful, really good, and really fun to play. And Monastery Mentor is still a very good creature, very good win condition. And Jeskai Mentor is one of the best decks currently in Legacy, and I really like those lists. And I really wanted to make a good Jeskai Mentor deck uh, for Modern, and I think this is pretty close to perfect. Um, there's also possibility of Esper Mentor, but I really like this version. It's more fun to me to play because of the amount of card advantage and the card draws with iteration. Of course, channelers and the channeler shredder is just they're just incredible in this deck. So uh, definitely like this build. Okay, that's it. That's all for today. This was that's the deck, and I hope you enjoyed the league. And that's all for today. Goodbye.